Welcome to Pod-Key Wellness, where brain health and everyday change meet in real life. What if a diet could affect far more than a number on a scale? And what if the reason change feels so hard has less to do with willpower than we think? Chris Palmer's story starts with a familiar health script. In his 20s, he was exercising and following a low-fat diet, yet his metabolic syndrome kept getting worse. Doctors were preparing medications for prediabetes, cholesterol, and blood pressure. Then he tried Atkins. Within 3 months, his metabolic markers normalized, and he also noticed major changes in mood, energy, concentration, and sleep. That experience pushed him to question the idea that one nutrition plan works for everybody. It also led to a larger question. Could diet-driven metabolic changes directly affect the brain? Palmer's answer centers on mitochondria. We often hear them called the cell's power plants, though he describes them more like command centers. They help manage energy, neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine, hormones including cortisol, inflammation, and even gene expression. Ketogenic diets were developed in 1921 as a way to mimic fasting for epilepsy treatment. Early reports found about half of patients became seizure-free, with another 35% seeing seizures reduced by at least half. In the modern revival for treatment-resistant epilepsy, the pattern was still striking. Roughly a third became seizure-free, another third got substantial benefit, and a third didn't respond. That neurological evidence is why Palmer began exploring ketogenic therapy with psychiatric patients whose illnesses had resisted standard care. He describes people with long-standing depression, experiencing powerful antidepressant effects. One woman who had been chronically depressed and suicidal became hypomanic, which is also a reminder that mood shifts need careful clinical monitoring. Another case involved a 33-year-old man with schizoaffective disorder. He had daily hallucinations and paranoid delusions, had tried 17 medications without success, and weighed 340 pounds. With a ketogenic diet and no medication change, his symptoms began easing over 6 to 8 weeks. He eventually lost 160 pounds, finished a certificate program, performed publicly, and lived independently. It's an extraordinary case, and it's still a case report, not a guarantee for everyone. Large randomized trials for schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and related conditions weren't yet available in this discussion. Promising stories are a reason to study this further. They don't replace conventional treatment. Palmer also stresses supervision. He generally aims for blood ketones above 0.8 millimoles for depression and above 1.5 for psychotic or bipolar disorders. Medication changes can be dangerous and belong with qualified mental health professionals. Ketosis may help through processes called mitophagy and mitochondrial biogenesis. In plain English, cells clear out damaged mitochondria and build healthier ones. Fasting and calorie restriction may stimulate similar cellular recycling, though prolonged fasting is hard to sustain for most people. For someone dealing with burnout, moodiness, or milder depression, Palmer suggests a practical first move. Reduce highly processed foods, especially the sugar or refined carb and fat combinations that can be rough on metabolic health. One vegetarian who reduced carbohydrates without reaching ketosis reported enough improvement in chronic anxiety within 3 weeks to stop prescription medication. That's an individual report, and medication decisions still need professional guidance. The useful takeaway is broader than any single diet. Brain health and metabolic health are deeply connected. Some people may benefit from ketosis, while others may simply benefit from eating fewer highly processed foods and finding an approach they can genuinely maintain. Now, even when we know what would help us, change can feel weirdly difficult. One framework describes 2 internal bodyguards. The energy bodyguard keeps familiar behavior on autopilot because effort costs energy. The ego bodyguard protects identities like independent, competent, kind, or in control. That's why advice can land as a threat to agency, even when it's sensible. We may know we need to exercise, save money, eat differently, or stop snapping at the kids. Familiar patterns still have a powerful head start. The Stroop test captures this beautifully. When a word's meaning clashes with its ink color, you have to inhibit the automatic response before you can give the new one. Change works that way too. Release an old automatic behavior. then practice its replacement. That learning curve calls for empathy, along with accountability. Everybody gets to be a work in progress. Harmful behavior still needs to be addressed. A helpful identity shift is moving from trying to be a fixed good person to being a goodish person. Kindness, parenting, productivity, and responsibility are skills. The better questions are: what did I learn? Did I try my best? Where can I grow? That keeps mistakes from becoming a whole personality verdict. It also makes ownership easier. In a family or team, shout-outs can recognize what's going well, and own-its can make room for admitting lateness, distraction, or an unkind reaction. When we want someone else to change, the durable tools are modeling, inviting, and recognizing genuine effort. Gandhi's well-known sugar story makes the point. He waited 2 weeks before advising a child to stop eating sugar because he wanted to first stop himself. Before offering solutions, try the wait rule. Why am I talking? Then ask what kind of support someone wants. Do they want to be heard, hugged, helped, or high-fived? That small question can spare everyone a lot of unwanted fixing. Feedback works best when it names behavior, the expectation, and the impact. These slides describe the product inconsistently, and it makes the presentation confusing. Give someone something concrete to work with. Labels like lazy or careless tend to start a debate about character. For everyday conflicts, try the 1 to 10 rule. Rate how important the issue really is. A fight about laundry or shoes on the floor may actually be about respect, shared responsibility, or feeling taken for granted. An 8, 9, or 10 deserves a conversation about what's underneath. Support also needs honest boundaries. Financial help, housing, or repeated rescue can sometimes ease the supporter's helplessness while keeping another adult's destructive pattern comfortable. The question is whether help is supporting growth or maintaining a painful dynamic. And when someone throws an insult your way, a brief ouch, whoa, or did you mean to say that, can set a boundary without feeding an endless argument. A healthier life can involve food, brain care, practice, feedback, and a little more grace for the learning curve. Thanks for spending time with Podkey Wellness. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.